Hello everyone and welcome to week 2. This week we're going to, in our lecture, we've just talked about different data types. So today I'm going to kind of go through basically something that we already talked about in class, which is different data types that we're going to be working on. So what we're going to do here is go over to source. And our default package, we're going to select class. And we'll just call it data types. Okay. What we're going to do is kind of get familiar with some of the ones that we learned in class. Or if you didn't have the class, it doesn't matter because we'll kind of go through it. So in the class, we learned that there's different data types, or in general within software development, there's different data types that you could utilize. Some in which are a string. Well, let's start off here. A byte. It could be a byte could be a length integer. There could be a keyword called short, which is known for short integer. Int is an integer. We have a float, a double, a char, and so forth. But we'll start off right now as int, because int is more unique for a single digit number. So if we're going to declare a string, or I'm sorry, a integer, we would go int, call it whatever you want to call it. We'll call it my number equals, we'll say 86 for Heinz Ward. Now, the thing is, you have to put a semicolon at the end of it. Let's not put a semicolon and see what happens. If I run it, it's going to blow up. It's going to say, Sechi, proceed. Yeah, sure. It blew up. Now, the message is not real vague. It's vague. It says it's on line 6. But what is happening is it's missing a semicolon. Now, I have here, but right now it doesn't display anything because we're not telling it to display anything. All we're doing here is saying declare variable. That's all we're doing. We're just declaring it. Now, if we wanted to display it, we could do the system.out.println, and we could put my number. And after that, we could do a semicolon. And if we hit play, look at that. We just have 86. And that's fine because we're not looking to get anything specific right now. We're just saying, hey, let's put our number. Okay. So now let's do a different one. And we can get a little bit more detail the things that you could do with it. But right now, let's just keep it basic. Let's say that when I wanted to do a short, and I did my short number, and I said it equals, I don't know, 900. Declare short variable. Now, what we could do is we could come down here and just kind of replace this and run it. And look at that. It displays 900. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to copy this. And we're going to put my number. You know what? Let's call it my integer. All right. Apologize, that is my cat in the background making noises. All right, my short's fine. All right, so now if we run that, it displays them over top of each other. Now, I'm gonna do a long. long, my long, equals, we'll say 1000. Declare long variable. Okay. Now, if I hit play, what's going to happen? It's only going to display what we're telling it to display. And to make programming easier, copy and paste is very helpful. And just replace what you need here. In this case, it's my long. So now if we hit run, it'll play 3 different numbers. Now, as you notice here, when I hit play, it always starts off with my enter CCACC. So it's using something that I have in another class. It's pulling that information up, which I'm not worried about that right now. So I have my long. So now we talked about an integer, we talked about a short, and we talked about a long. Now let's talk about a double. When would you use a double? A double is when you're doing finances, for example. So let's say we call it my double, obviously. Let's say that Okay, your base pay is, I don't know, $22.35 an hour. So that is how you would put 22.35. And say I wanted to use a float. Float could be used as anything. It could be used as a double too. So I could do float, my float equals, let's say 323.3F. That right there says I'm using a float because I'm putting it as a number. So you can use a float in this essence. Um, so it's just a single preference. It's a floating point data type, as we mentioned in the lecture, is a float or a double. It could be used as the same thing. So let's display those guys real quick. My floats. All right. Now we're rocking. Now look all the numbers we got displaying. All right, so now we're going to do a char. A char is like a text value. So we'll say equals CC AC 110 or 111. See, I forgot what class it was. All right. So we're giving it some type of string value. All right. Why did it not like that? Oh, hold on 1 second. So what's interesting here is a char is only, this is interesting because I wanted to show you here, as it shows I have an error message. Why? Because I put text there. Now, let's say I did, let's forget about that for a second. Let's say I did something called a string. And I call it my string equals, and we'll do the same thing. That works, right? Why does it work and why does that not work? Well, a string could be a number of string variables using a string. But a char is only one character. So like a yes, a no, something like that. But a string could be used for multiple variables. See, well, let's see here. CCAC is a great start. School. Works perfectly fine. Actually, let's see here something. See, if we even try to do double quotes, it still doesn't work. It's showing you that in order to do a char, you have to do single quotes, and we'll just say N for no. And a string, as you notice, I have double quotes, so I could use it as a string value. You can't use a tick as a string value unless you're using SQL, which is not in this class. So that's a different language. And I'll do my string here. All right, 1 second. All right, so we have my string. So now if we run this, you'll see we have 86. We have all these different variables. A couple other things that we didn't talk about yet is byte and boolean. So let's start with byte first, and then we'll get into boolean. So if we were going to do a byte, we could say byte, my byte, obviously, equals, it's a number, very similar to, as we hear, all right, so I spelled byte wrong. It's B-Y-T-E, nice. And my byte equals 127. All right, so we have 127 here. Now, let's put 199, for example. All right, now let's put 100, for example. See, a byte only holds so many characters, and you can only go up to a certain number. So, for example, as you notice here, if I put 127, it works fine. But if I put 128, look at that, it doesn't work because the variable or the result is just a mismatch because it can't convert an int to a byte. Now, let's say that we wanted to declare an int and we called it my byte 2, for example. Okay, and we put 128, right? Look at that, it works fine. But we have 127, and anything from 127 down, you could do as a byte. But if it's an integer, you could keep it a higher number. So it just shows you my byte is only used for certain things, and not often is it used where you could use an integer and just solve everything that you want to do. So if we wanted to do a Boolean, we'll call it my bool equals true or false are the only values you could do. Let's say that we didn't care about that. We're like, I don't care. You know, we just put this. We don't care what we put. It's not going to work. It's going to blow up. It's either true or false. Let's say true like that. Doesn't recognize it. But if I put true, look at that. It highlights it because it recognizes the value. Or you could do false. It's either yes or no. Well, let's copy these guys real quick. All right, let's do this. Let's put my byte, and then we'll put my bool, and that's it. Now, if we run it, look at that. All those values are there. Now, I'm going to show you something extra that we can do with this. Now, right now, it doesn't say much. Now, what we could do is we can add the variables together. So let's say that we wanted to add this together. So we could put double quotes. Well, let's do it this way. Say, my favorite number is, and we could do a double quote, do plus, and make it space. Now, you notice here how I have a space. So what we wanted to do is see my favorite number is 86 with a space. Now, if I run this, you'll see what I mean. So you see here where I have my favorite number is 86. I have this space in here. If I didn't have this space in here, here's what would happen. It would have it together and say my favorite number is 86. And what you could do is you could do the same thing for all these. You could put my number is this, my number is that, etc. You could put it in here. This is one way you could do it. Another way is you could say string display message equals my favorite number is, and then space, same thing. And then what you could do is you could come down here, take that out of there, and put display message plus. That's it. It takes that value right here and puts it right here. So if we run it, we should get the same exact answer as we did. We got the same answer. You could do the same thing with the rest of them. I would say definitely, excuse me, I would definitely give it a shot and see what happens. Let's do one more thing. So we'll save this. Let's create another package class. We'll call it hello name dialog. And this will be the same thing that you see in your book, in your chapter. So we'll hit public static, hit finish. I try to move this stuff out of here. So now this is part of swing here. So we're going to type in import java x.swing.jOption pane. All right, so it gives you a little yellow thing because it hasn't been used. We'll come down here and put string results. So we talked about string. Now we're going to say results equals jOption pane dot. Now you see all these options we have. We're going to do show input dialog. We're going to send it a null value. And I'm going to say, what is your name? And we're going to close it. There we go. And now we're going to say, hey, jOption pane equals show the message. You see all the options we have, show confirmation. But in this case, we're going to say show message dialog. We're going to send it a null value. And we're going to say hello, excuse me. And kind of like what we did in the other one, and I'll show you what I mean. We'll put results plus, oh, all right, man. There we go. Now we need a, oops, this and this. All right, so as you've seen when we did the data types, you know how we did the display message right here plus. Now what we're doing different here is we're saying, hey, we're saying that results equals this call right here. Okay, and that's fine. We're saying, what is your name? Now we're also saying this dialog, we want to say hello. once you input your name, we want to say hello results because it's going to say your name. So for example, let's just hit play and see what happens. All right, it's going to come up on my other screen. So let's go over here. So it brings up, what is your name? All right, what is my name? My name is Jeff. I hit OK, and then guess what? The next screen comes up and says hello, Jeff. Because what it did is this is the first thing it needed. So we declared it. All right, so we declared. Let's put this here. Needed a value, needed a string, and declared it here, and initialized it. Well, we didn't initialize it yet. All right. So then here we initialize it. So initialize basically means that you finally, I can't spell. All right, now spelling is not my specialty. All right, so we initialize the variable. We're saying, hey, this string equals J option show dialog box. So what we're telling it to do is, the first thing we're telling it to do is this for this real quick. Again, we're telling it to do in this results, we're saying, hey, display this. Use the J option pane, which is from this library, and this API is called show input dialog, so which is this input. And it gives the value of input and says, what is your name? Awesome, our name, and then you input your name, and then the next thing it uses this option here, show message dialog, which is a different API. That API is saying whatever you want it to say, and the results on it. Now you see here we have hello Jeffrey. That is another example of something that you could do with input dialog boxes. Now we will talk about this in class, so you've already done it in class, but it'll be something that gives you the ability to kind of play with something new. You have different options that you could get with the J option pane class, and that's one of the things that we're talking about in this class. We'll talk about options of yes, no, cancel operations, and so forth. So there'll be other things that we can do, but within this is just to kind of get your feet wet, play around with it first. So thank you for listening for week 2. We talked about different variable types. We did a little exercise, a simple exercise on this to kind of get you started, and there'll be a lot more to come. All right, thanks a lot. Good day.